Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om 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 Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah 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 Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
करवावहै तेजस्विना अधिकमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. This is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, extracted from Aranyaka section of Yajurveda. It belongs to Yajurveda, and it is also called, we have 6 chapters of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that we study. Really 5 chapters. The last Khilakanda, last we don't bother to study that, but 4 chapters we study. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad belongs to the Shatapatha Brahmana. So it is the part of Shatapatha Brahmana of the Yajurveda. Aranyaka, because the Vedas have these 4 sections. The Samhita section, then the Karma Kanda, and Karma Kanda has the Aranyaka is also part of that, and then Upanishads. So Samhita, Karma Kanda, Aranyaka, and Upanishad, 4 sections. Aranyakas are primarily all upasanas. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad belongs to Shatapatha Brahmana of Yajurveda, and it's Bruhat Aranyaka. Aranyaka is there is studied in Aranya. And this is a very vast Upanishad, so it's called Bruhat Aranyaka. What do you mean extracted? It's part of it, you're taken. So this is a part of the Vedas or Aranyaka that we are studying. It's called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. All Upanishads ultimately come from the Vedas only, and from they follow Aranyaka or are part of Aranyaka section. Except that Ishavasya Upanishad is part of the Samhita section. So Samhita is the first section consisting of mantras. And then we have the Karma Kanda, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. So Samhita consists of mantras which are generally used for various rituals. And therefore, we must be able to find all the mantras of Samhita having their application someplace in Karma Kanda. Otherwise, they're useless. As far as the Mimamsakas are concerned, karma is the primary message of the Vedas. There is a statement from, say, Gemini, Amnayastu Kriyasattvat Anarthakyam Atadarthanam. Amnaya means Veda. Amnayastu Kriyasattvat, because the Vedas are meant for enjoining Kriya or Karma. Anarthakyam Atadarthanam. So karma is enjoined to us in the statement of Vidhi. So according to them, the main vakyas or mahavakyas of the Vedas are Vidhi vakyas. Do this, do this, do that. Upanishads don't have a Vidhi vakya. Upanishads don't reveal the truth. And in truth, they cannot be Vidhi or enjoined that may you know this as a cloth. When I hold this before you, it just, in your mind, it flashes as a pot. If I ask you, please know this as a cloth or an elephant or a horse, you cannot. Meaning that knowledge is what called Vastu Tantram. The knowledge of this object that takes place in your mind is determined by the object, not by you. The knowledge is not determined by the knower. The knowledge that takes place in our mind is determined by the object of knowledge. So I hold this object in front of you. The knowledge that will take place or cognition that will take place in your mind is that of a pot. If I hold a flower, then the knowledge that takes place in your mind is that of flower. You do not have choice to know this entity as other than flower, because this one decides what kind of cognition takes place in your mind. Cognitions or thoughts take place in our mind, they take place. We do not decide what thought will take place in my mind. By the way, I do not decide what the next thought will be. Thoughts just occur. Similarly, also, the knowledge or cognition occurs. And it corresponds to the object that is perceived. So, object that is perceived is flower, then a vritti or a thought form of the nature of flower will take place in your mind. You have no choice. The knower does not have the choice in what knowledge takes place. As far as karma is concerned, the karta has a choice. So karma is Purusha Tantram, Jnanam is Vastu Tantram. So these are the standard expressions. Knowledge is determined by the object of it's called Vastu. This flower is a Vastu or an object, and therefore the knowledge or cognition that takes place in your mind is determined by this object, and therefore knowledge is Vastu Tantram. Knowledge or cognition that takes place in your mind is determined by the object of cognition, whereas karma is Purusha Tantram. The karma or the action that one has to perform is determined by the person himself or herself. So if you say, Swami, put down this flower, then when I put down the flower, it's up to me. That is the one who performs the action of putting down determines whether to put down, not to put down, how soon, so throw it, gently place it. All that action is decided by the Purusha. Purusha means the person. Or karma is Purusha Tantra. All Jnanam is Vastu Tantra. Is that clear? Don't get scared by the Sanskrit words. Purusha Tantra means determined by the person. Meaning the action is determined by whether to look at me, to smile, is all determined by you. That's action. Is determined by the person who performs the action. Whether to hear these words or not, also you decide. And you can decide, your Swami is talking and you can decide to look at the ceiling and count, So that is all up to you. So you cannot control the people whether they listen to you or not. If that we could control, that would be wonderful, but that we cannot control. Therefore, it becomes let us say, responsibility of the speaker to make the people hear and make them understand. To make understand the listener is the job or the duty or responsibility of the speaker. There is a saying in Sanskrit which says, Vakture vitajjadyam yatra shrotana buddhyate. Vakta, the speaker. Shrotana buddhyate, when I say something and is not understood by the listener, it is not the fault of the listener, it is the fault of the speaker or the communicator. You follow? Meaning that if I say something you do not understand, it is not your fault. It is the fault of the one who says, meaning that it is a duty of the speaker to make the listener understand what he or she says. So we watch expressions reasonably, I cannot watch expression on everybody's face, but still, whether the expression, whether the person understood, I'll come to you. So from the expression, you know whether you are puzzled, you understood. And when you understand, there is a certain expression on face. That knowledge always creates joy. When you understand something, that's why Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Anandam, because Jnanam always creates joy. You learn something new, you always are happy, you enjoy that. Human mind enjoys the process of learning new things. And so, to make the listener understand is said to be the responsibility of the speaker. It is his limitation if the listener does not understand. And therefore, you watch, you feel that I think that the listener is puzzled. You try to explain in a different way. It doesn't go through, explain in another way. And so, even the Upanishads also, we find same theme explained in more than one way. In Kathopanishad also you'll find various cantos come, and essentially the same thing explained in different examples in different ways. Most famous example is the Chandogya Upanishad, where this so-called Mahavakya or the major statement Tattvamasi, that thou art, is uttered by the teacher how many times, 9 times. You said Tattvamasi. Another example. Tattvamasi. Yet another example. So the teacher, what patience he must have had. With different examples, the same theme is explained 9 times. So that is the job of the teacher, to see that the listener understands. But in those days it was 1-to-1, not 1-to-150 or something like that. So it was easier to determine whether the listener is understood or not. That's what it is.
Swamiji, it reminded me of Puja Swamiji.
Hmm.
He always said mathematics, if you didn't learn, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the teacher. They didn't teach you well. So just like you said, speak and learn.
You see, that would apply if there is one-to-one communication. In the Upanishad, it was one-to-one communication, basically. Or very few students would be there. They did not envisage a teacher, speaking to 125 people or something like that. But that's also okay. The idea is that then you can monitor, or you can control, or you can tailor make your speech or your delivery to suit the listener, so that the listener gets it. And that is the duty of the speaker. In the in the evening, when the priest shows the camphor light before the Lord, he chants a verse from Kathopanishad, and same thing as in Mundakopanishad also. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyado bhanti guto emagnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. This is a verse that comes from the Mundakopanishad, Kathopanishad also, and even in that Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Shows the light of camphor before the Lord. The purpose of showing the light is so that the devotee would have a clear vision of the Lord. Because in traditional temples in South India, there are all these prakaras, and you take rounds and then ultimately go to the sanctum. And sanctum would be generally a room with just one oil lamp in that, so it's dark. And you have come from outside with all these rounds, so your eyes are still accustomed to light. So first when you come before the Lord, you almost can't see anything. Then you slowly see things that are shining. Mainly jewels, jewelry which the Lord is wearing. They say there's one oil lamp in sanctum, and that shines so that those jewelry also shines in that light. And that's what you slowly, as your eyes get adjusted, you start seeing that. And slowly the features all start becoming clear a little bit. And then the priest comes and shows that lamp of camphor before the Lord and shows you the feature. And generally, this is Shivalinga, but usually if it's a Vigraha, a Murti, let us say of Lord Vishnu, it's from feet to the toe, then he will move his lamp like this, starting from the feet, slowly illuminating one by one, limbs of the Lord, and ending with the face. We've been doing like that, sometimes, but the idea is to start and illumine, In Shivalinga, there is no, and it's not a very large thing also, so but you will find him starting this way, and this is how he shows the different features. So there the priest stands for the teacher, and he shows the face of the deity, which means then the devotees have the glimpse of the darshan of the Lord. The students have darshan of the truth when the teacher illumines that. At that time, this mantra is chanted. Na tatra suryo bhaya, the sun does not shine. Na chandra tarakam, the moon does not shine. The stars do not shine. Utoyam Agnihi, then what to talk of this lamp that I'm holding in my hand? How can you illumine you, O Lord? It is uh, a, what shall I say, it is silly on my part to try to illumine you. But you are the one who illumines the entire universe. But still I am doing this so that the devotees can see you. But otherwise, Tameva Bhantam Anubhadi Sarvam. He shines and everything shines after him in his light. Tasya Bhasa Sarvadam Vivadi. All this shines in the light of the Lord. That Lord I am trying to illumine. That I dare to illumine that Lord that illumines everything. So this mantra is recited while showing the camphor light before the Lord. There is a verse in the 15th chapter of the Gita which in a way reflects this. Natat bhasayate surya na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartan. But then natat bhasayate surya na shashanko na pavakaha. That the Lord, the sun does not illumine that, nor the moon, nor the fire. So there are the three basic lights, sun, moon and fire, as we are seeing in the Upanishad. When the sun does not shine, the moon. Moon does not shine, the fire. Then the lights, in terms of the luminaries, are no more there. Then it's a speech, you call it a luminary because it illumines something, but it's not the light luminary like the sun and the moon. So is it clear? Okay, all right. Who has to realize the self? Well, the one who is ignorant has to gain the knowledge. So who is ignorant? I am ignorant. Who is that I? Ignorance does not abide in Atma. So it's ego, the individual who is ignorant, and that's the one who has to get enlightened. You follow? All of this pursuit is on the part of the ego. The samsari is the ego. The one who feels limited, bound, lacking, wanting is ego. And what is ego? I or the Atma identified with this body-mind complex is called ego. Atma alone is called ego. But when identified with this body-mind sense complex, then he takes himself to be as limited as his body-mind. In reality, the word Atma means that it's all pervasive. Apnoti the Atma, yad apnoti yadate yachati vishayani, etc. But one that pervades heaven is called Atma. But he takes himself to be so limited, as limited as the body is, or the mind is. So that's the one who is to recognize that I am free from all limitations. So who has to realize the self? The one who is ignorant. Why should he realize the self? Because this ignorance also results into the false notions about oneself. The ignorance is just, ignorance usually is the lack of knowledge, ajnanam. The ajnanam can be jnanam. Before that, that negative particle akara is added. Ajnanam means absence of knowledge. In Vedanta, our ajnanam is not just absence of knowledge, or is viparita jnanam, that ignorance results into the false knowledge. You follow? Meaning that not only do I not know myself, but I know myself wrongly. Had it been simple lack of knowledge, perhaps it would not have been so bad. But knowing, not knowing something is not so bad as knowing that thing wrongly. So the self that is limitless is taken to be limited. The one that is free is taken to be bound. Meaning that I take myself quite contrary to what I really am. And that contrary knowledge, called viparita jnanam, or false knowledge, is the problem in our life. When you're fast asleep, there's no false knowledge. There's no knowledge, but no false knowledge. In deep sleep, there's only lack of knowledge, ignorance. Ajnanam is there, but false knowledge is not there. Therefore, there's no samsara in deep sleep. There's no sorrow in deep sleep. Not that there is moksha in deep sleep either, but there is no sorrow. As soon as I wake up, I get identified with this body, and I just feel miserable, limited. The reason I feel limited is because I just dislike myself. I don't accept myself. So as we said, the most problem that I have is my own self. And source of most sorrow is my own self. Then I make other people also sorrow. I transfer my sorrow to others and make them feel miserable also. But basically, it is I who is the source of my unhappiness. If the ignorance of myself is a source of unhappiness, and so it's the knowledge that's the solution. So who has to realize self? One who is ignorant. Who is ignorant? The ego. Is the self-realization highest order of thinking? Is not thinking. Knowledge is not thinking. Knowledge is a result of thinking. If you have need to, as I said, when I hold this flower in front of you, it may need on your part some thinking, perhaps. What is this? Oh, this flower, this pink flower, and what is it? It's rose. But is it a real rose? Is it a paper rose? I guess so. Sometimes they make it from cotton, sometimes they make it from so different materials they make. I'm still not sure what this is made up of, but anyway, so there can be doubt about what this is or how it is or what it is made of. And if I want to sell this flower and make money out of that, then I must be very clear as to what it is. I can't venture whether this is a real flower, a flower made of paper or made of silk or made of what. Must be very clear. Anyway, that's by the way, but the thing is that the one who is ignorant is the one who has to realize the nature of the self. And self-realization is not highest order of thinking, it's highest order of being. In this particular instance, knowing is being. Elsewhere, knowing the flower is not being the flower. Knowing a wall is not being a wall. Knowing is different from being. But you know the 10th man story. You know? I don't know. Oh, is there somebody who does not know the 10th man story here? Everybody knows. Then for one, should I repeat the story? I'm very fond of telling the story. So you should not get bored, But you may not have heard the story the way I tell anyway. Once in a village, there was a group of children. They wanted to go for a picnic. And in village, you cannot do anything independently unless you have the permission from the elder of the village. So evening they went to this elder and requested him that tomorrow morning we want to go for a picnic. Can we do that? They said, you can go with one condition. One of you should take the responsibility of bringing the rest of you back safely. Who will take the responsibility? I'll take, one of them said. Okay. So let me count how many you are. So he made them line up in front of him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You realize how many of you are? 10. Make sure that you bring them all back safely tomorrow. Yes, I will. So next day they went for a picnic and they had fun and then they were returning. At that time the leader realized, remembered, I'm supposed to make sure that everybody returns safely. So he said, let me count how many we are. Come on, fellows, line up in front of me. So he repeated the procedure that the old man had done last evening. And so the old person had made them line up and he counted. So he said also, line up in front of me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Have you heard this story in this way before? No. Because why should he count? First of all, how does he know that there are 10? And how does he count? Why, But because he saw that last evening, that old man asking them to line up in front of him and count them, determine how many they were, his boy repeated that procedure and asked them to line up in front of him. He also counted, except the count was 9. And he counted again the other way around, this way. And 3, 4 times he counted, the answer was 9. He was a little upset. He was worried and nervous. So his nervousness was expressed upon this. Come on, fellows, don't talk when I'm counting. Come on, keep quiet. We counted in many ways, but then the answer was 9. So he invited one of his friends. He did the same thing because he studied in the same school, So he did the same thing. So when those one by one came forward and counted and the count was 9, then it was determined that there are only 9 and one of us is lost. Then they started searching. So this part of story you would not have heard. They say this, no, he counted. But how does he know that there are 10? How does he know that you get the answer by counting in line? So that's why I add this preface. How they went to that village. Elder, how he repeated, he sort of copied him or imitated him. So therefore, in the story also, you have to explain. Nobody has asked a question anyway. How did you know Swami? But nobody has asked because they were all very obedient and believing. But in my mind, this question will arise: that Swami, how did they know that there are 10? And what made him count them in this manner? So I add one preface, Anyway, so this is how you have to communicate to the listener so that they have all the aspects of a an episode or an event. But then 10th man, uh, after all these countings, then the answer was 9, and then they were all frustrated, and then fortunately an old man happened to pass by, and then he saw all these children were very sad. He said, "Children, why do you look sad?" Then this monitor stood up and told the whole story as to how one of them is lost. How did he decide? I counted them. How did he count them? I demonstrated. Count again carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where is the 10th man? You are the 10th man. So this is how when that fellow said, please teach me, So he becomes a disciple. This old man created a confidence. Now he seems to know what he's saying, what he's doing. So Shraddha is there, surrender is there, the right attitude is there, and then he's told that then he gets it. So you add all these elements, and that's how Vedantic teaching requires Shraddha. Surrender is a big word, but in a way it is surrendering. As I said, that we surrender ourselves when we're listening, and when the cognition or knowledge takes place, at that time it is not your effort, it just takes place. Even when I hold this flower in front of you, you will be able to have cognition of flower provided you stop all activities. So when we have a cognition or perception, understand there is no activity in our mind at that moment. The mind doesn't say, come on now, what is this? This is not flower. When the mind is not like at that time arguing, etc. It is just still and surrender, and that's how he gets the cognition. You follow? So even now also the knowledge or cognition takes place when at that time the mind becomes free from all activity. You can look around this way, that way, etc. and count. So then this cognition won't take place. Therefore, even the cognition of the self to take place, it is necessary that our mind should become free from all activity. Is it not? Should be. So free from all extrovertedness, free from all activities. So that is why we require this sama, dama, uparama, tatiksha. Is that then the mind is composed, the mind is quiet, mind is self-content, they were free from all activities and now ready to receive or ready to cognize, ready to recognize. So self-realization is not highest order of thinking, it is highest order of being. This is being. 10th man does not see. How does he say 10th man? What is the shape of the 10th man? That's an interesting question. So you are the 10th man. Yes, I see. How does he see? Does he see a 10th man in his mind? Yeah? What happens? When that person says, you are the 10th man. Oh, I see. Does he see some entity in his felt? What happens? Mistake. How does he see himself as 10th man? There's a perception. Yes, I see you. Does he have a perception of 10th man in his mind? He's the 10th man. If he sees somebody as 10th man, then he is not 10th man. You know what he's seeing. Can you see yourself? You cannot. You can't be seer and seen simultaneously. I see, but then you don't see. I see what you say. That doesn't mean that I see something in my mind. I see, I have that light of knowledge. So when he says, yes, I see I am the 10th man, what happens? See, we have heard this story millions of times, Mhm. You see the 10th man in front of him, what happens?
Shraddha in the words, Shraddha in the words of the person.
Hmm?
Shraddha in the words of the person.
Hmm?
He realizes that he himself is the tenth.
True. But when you say realize, does he see the 10th man in front of him? Hmm? Aparokshanabhutiya, that's a good word, I know. But we use minimum technical words. Although you can get away with a lot of things by using technical words. But we try to avoid. Otherwise, aparokshanabhuti, that's good, you're impressed. But it is aparokshanabhuti, no doubt. Cognition.
So it's a realization of what was there already.
You're right, but in what form is the realization? Is it
It's
see?
a surety. Yes, I was wrong. I mean, I didn't realize it earlier, but now I'm sure that there are 10. Now, maybe you may like to, I mean, it would be a further in this thing that I am Atman. If someday I realize, I'll be sure that I'm Atman. It's some that kind of a.
Not that there are 10, that I am the 10th.
Strong notion is revealed. Conscious.
Yes. So his notion that I am not the 10th man, that notion is removed. It's not that he sees 10th man, realizes 10th man, but what was preventing him from knowing that he's 10th man is his conclusion that I am not the 10th man, I am the ninth man, or whatever. It was that wrong conclusion that prevented him from recognizing his true self. And when he was told you're 10th man, what happens is that false notion drops. That notion was depriving him of recognizing himself. When notion drops, he sees who he is. Not he sees in a mirror or sees in front of him. In his mind, the notion, I am not the 10th man, goes. I am the ninth man, goes. So what happens is that the false notion goes. Not knowledge of 10th man takes place, but the false notion that I am not the 10th man goes. This is the question, Suthabai? Nothing. The question from an online seeker. For a householder who is generally overwhelmed with series of duties, how does one maintain the enthusiasm to pursue Vedanta studies? How does one motivate oneself to focus when the mind is always divided? But does it have to be divided? You are a householder, perform number of duties one after the other. But does the mind have to be divided? Or can the mind be focused even when you have to do a number of things? I mean, after all, when you appear for an examination, there are 10 questions, and one question may have A, B, C, D, etc. You just take one after the other. You don't have to divide it. Just because you have to do many things does not mean that you have to be divided. Does not mean you have to be agitated. Therefore, when you are doing your household duties, there is no reason why you should feel overburdened or divided. What is lacking here, perhaps, is that maybe you do not enjoy what you are doing. Therefore, it all is burden. If you enjoy what you are doing, it's not a burden. Anyway, this is not none of you, but the point is that the answer or the key is to learn to enjoy what you are doing. The Swami, was a mundane task. Every day cutting the same vegetable and same thing. How can you enjoy that? Same chapati. It's never the same chapati. It's a different chapati. You don't cut the same vegetable, different vegetable every day. But every day I make potato, but it's a different potato. It's never the same. It's always different. And so look at the shape of potato. You know how wonderful, how beautiful it is. That how delicious it is. Look at the way the potato is boiled, and you can see, how the temperature rises and it boils and becomes softer and softer. See how the skin peel off. All these things are there. I mean, if your mind is elsewhere and do this, then it becomes, a chore. But if you are with it, then even cooking vegetables, cooking whatever also, you can enjoy it, can you not? You no choice to say no anyway. Swami, you do it, then you'll find out. Which is true. Because I always have to advise people and say things. I don't have to do most of these things anyway. It's easier said than done, Swamiji, I may accept. But still, it can be done. It is possible to enjoy what you are doing. You don't have to feel it's monotonous or it's mechanical. All you need is put your heart behind that. Enjoy that activity, enjoy that. Because, I remember many years ago, maybe you're not born that time. But anyway, so I also used to cook. Not a big deal, simple things. Make a vegetable and dal is a soup, I mean, the cans were ready. So that's what we call dal. That's just soup. No chapati, I never learned. So toast and some vegetables I used to cook. So we had a meal and rice of course was easy because the kind of rice that we used to get those days, and now also may be available, that you did not have to pay any attention. Take your vessel and fill it with water. Even there was this Uncle Ben rice then in the United States. It will never get stuck. It will never stick also. That is called Uncle Ben. It's boiled rice. And so we didn't have to worry about rice sticking here and there and so forth. So safe. How it tastes is a different matter, but we enjoy it. So it's not that cooking also you can, maybe it was, Swami, if you do it day in and day out for a year and year, then maybe. But For whatever short time we did, it was a good change. Coming home from work, it was a good change. Change of activity. So it doesn't have to be monotonous, routine, boring. It's for us to put our mind behind what we do. And so if this day-to-day chores do not overwhelm you, then your mind can still be fresh and then it will be available to study Vedanta. If you complain again, same thing, making the same thing. So if you are not with what you are doing, you resist what you are doing, then there is a conflict in there and a lot of energy is wasted in that. So, but this person can say, Swami, easy for you to say, you start doing it, then we'll find out. But right now, I'm just sitting here and advising people. Despite listening to Vedanta, when things do not go according to our wish or expectations, for the greater good or spiritual good, we feel bound how to address this. If our expectation was for the greater good or the expectation was for spiritual good, then it is not the outcome of the action. It is the very action, your attitude towards action that brings about your spiritual good, not the outcome of the action. You follow? As Lord Krishna teaches, when you perform an action, what attitude you have? He didn't bother about karma phala. He said, it's just because you do not control the outcome of the action. What you control is the action. And therefore put your heart behind the action. The sense of being limited, bound, helplessness comes because what we expect does not happen. This is called attachment to the outcome or attachment to karma phala. Lord Krishna does not tell us to give up karma phala. You cannot, because when you perform an action, the outcome will be there. Lord Krishna advises us to give the attachment to the outcome. And what that means is that be willing to accept the outcome gracefully. Because you do not control the outcome. You just control the action or the effort. And so you don't have to feel bound if things don't work out the way you wanted. If your joy depends upon the outcome, then this will be a problem. If you learn to enjoy what you do, then the outcome doesn't become very important. Because ultimately what is important is that I enjoy. Usually we postpone our enjoyment to the outcome. What we have in hand is the action, what is in the present. And that we have already relegated to the future. But this is very simple, practical teaching by Lord Krishna. Learn to enjoy what you do. So, then expectation of what the outcome should be will become less important. There will always be expectation of the outcome because you cannot perform an action without some plan as far as the outcome is concerned. Lord Krishna does not say that you do things and don't bother about the outcome. You do bother. Action is like an arrow always is towards a target, and therefore you have a target when you perform any action. Nothing wrong in that. But we don't insist that the arrow should always hit the target every time, and so we know it does not. We accept it. Or we learn to accept it, because we don't control that. So entertaining expectation about the outcome is a problem. Focusing attention on what we do, the process, is in our hand, and we can always enjoy the process if we decide to. Same mechanical work, Swamiji, every day, same routine stuff. It's never routine. It's never the same. Every day is a different day. So why do we say it's monotonous, it's a routine? It doesn't have to be. Look at it every day as a fresh thing. Swami, you come and work in the kitchen from tomorrow, then you'll find out. So, Swamiji, the shift in question in Mantra 6, where dream state is being talked about, indeed, I missed it until now. Only when Swamiji point until now means until the class, I think. Only when Swamiji pointed out, I thought about it. In what way can we focus our mind to understand these subtle nuances? So, pound of punyena shravanam kurya, listen to it again and again, and we'll slowly and slowly develop, more and more subtlety and to understand those nuances. It's just keep listening. So it's already 9:15. I'll reserve these two questions for tomorrow and discuss them tomorrow. Is it okay? Because I see people, a long day. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.